And so back to Precigen's 10Q SEC form that I was talking about in part 1, you can see here it states, if we are unable to fund our operations without additional external financing and therefore cannot sustain future operations, we may be required to delay, reduce and or cease our operations and or seek bankruptcy protection. Now, perhaps this was the kind of statement that triggered a level of concern with certain shareholders, hence the kind of recent decline that we've experienced over the last few weeks or few months or so. But when you look at Randall Kirk's net worth and the fact that he's been leveraging Third Security LLC in order to bankroll Precigen, this is really, really unlikely. But the truth is, companies must disclose material risks or any kind of threats to operations. And Precigen, in this case, are legally required to be transparent with this and show this information to shareholders. But fundamentally, Randall Kirk's reputation would potentially be on the line with this, and this is not the kind of thing that he's going to want to have on his resume. He's invested 500 to 700 million into Precigen, and even at the time it was in Trexon in 2005, and he's had to endure a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures for pretty much probably around 20 years. And right now he's at kind of almost near the finish line of getting Precigen's first commercially viable product that's ready to be marketed and sold. And so it makes no sense whatsoever to kind of give up, if you like, at the final hurdle or near the final hurdle, which they're reaching right now. And so bankrolling Precigen with an additional 30 million through this public offering, I think that this was a method to kind of put a little bit of pressure on his team. He could have very easily made this 60 million, but part of it is to kind of put pressure on his team, highlight that there's a level of urgency and really get things going with PGEN 2012. And the appointment of Chief Commercial Officer Phil Tennant in July earlier this year is again one of these examples of his actions of really driving things forward with PGEN 2012. Phil Tennant has 30 years experience on the commercial and business front and has led the go-to market strategy for treatments for Merck, AstraZeneca, Bristol Myers Squibb, to name a few. You can see right here that it states Phil is a recognized global commercial leader with an impressive 30+ year track record building commercial organizations and scaling commercial operations to drive revenue growth for both niche and blockbuster therapeutics. In his most recent role, he successfully drove multiple new product launches and scaled to ex-US markets, leading to double-digit revenue growth. And upon his arrival at Precigen, Phil Tennant stated, "I am thrilled to be able to collaborate with the team to further commercial readiness work already underway and build out Precigen's commercial strategy and operations to support the first potential commercial launch for the company's lead asset, PGEN 2012. Now, there are a number of moving parts and quite a lot of unknowns with this stock, but effectively, the coming few months and even this year are going to be very, very critical for the success of Precigen. And certainly there are kind of catalysts around the BLA submission, the announcement around that we should pretty much expect in Q1 or certainly in January, I would have thought by now. Now, Precigen did receive a delisting notification from the NASDAQ since the stock had been trading for less than $1 for 30 consecutive days, which you can see from this SEC form. And you can see right here that Precigen have 180 days, so up until April the 30th, 2025. And in that time, the stock must close at least $1 for 10 consecutive days before this date. Now, the thing with this and this deadline of the 30th of April 2025, there is kind of a caveat to this. I've looked into this in a lot more detail, and it looks like Precigen, based on kind of information right now, when it comes to this deadline, they would actually potentially qualify for an extension of an additional 180 days. You can see it from this statement right here. If we do not regain compliance with the bid price rule by the 30th of April, we may be eligible for an additional 180-day compliance period. And you can see from this kind of document that I put together myself, I've gone through all of the criteria to identify whether or not Precigen, as they stand today, they would qualify for an extension of 180 days. I put a link in the description below to this document so you can look through it yourself, and certainly if you have any questions, if you think that maybe I've missed some certain things or you want to talk about it a little bit more, you can certainly drop some comments underneath this video. You'll also find in the link below there's another document as well, which is pretty much a breakdown of all the catalysts and the risk for this stock over the coming year that I've kind of identified. And again, this is a document that I've kind of worked on and I've done based on my research. And if you have any pointers, if you have any questions, if you feel that I maybe have missed things out or you want to discuss this more, again, feel free to drop some comments below for that as well. And so as much as they may qualify for this 180-day extension, which would bring the kind of deadline to October, there are a lot of unknowns. It could be done at the discretion, based on NASDAQ officials. What do they decide? What do they think? And which is why I kind of put together this document with Catalyst as well, just to identify anything that could provoke more interest in this company and hence a share price spike. But look, thanks very much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. All the best.